In today's video, I'm going to show you a specific movement retraining, nervous system retraining to improve your ability to squat. In my previous videos, I talked about how you can improve your hip mobility and improve your gait, your walking, as well as improve your lower back pain and the knee pain by improving your movement patterns around your hips. So if you haven't watched those videos, then please watch them. You may find them really helpful. So let's get into today's practice. We're going to get down onto the floor and you can watch my demonstration and then, or you can practice with me, but it'll be better when you actually start practicing and really pay attention to your body. And that's the biggest thing for me is, I keep saying this, connect with your body and don't get distracted by how I'm moving. You can watch my demonstration so you can become familiar with the movement practice, the sequence of the movements. But when you actually start to practice the movements, then it is really important for you to connect with your own body, even better with your eyes closed. You can listen to my verbal guidance, but then really bring your attention, awareness into your body, sensing the movements, sensing your body from the inside out. All right, so let's get started. So to get into a full squat position requires you to have a good ankle, knees, hips, and the spine mobility. And you may not have enough mobility through your ankles, through your knees, through your hips or the back, spine, to be able to squat comfortably. So right now, I'm going to focus on the hips, how you can actually improve your hip flexion. If you don't have a good hip flexion, then, well, you can't flex. You're not really flexing deeply through your hips. And then you may find that falling back, that you can't really get into the full squat. Like this. Right? So to really specifically work on that pattern, we're going to get down onto hands and knees positions. And from a hands and knees position, to have actual range of the motion is one thing. You can specifically train that movement patterns. And another thing is that you may not really have a clear awareness and ability to really sense and differentiate hip flexion from the lumbar movements, right? So you can't really use your hips well because you're not aware of it, and that could be a problem too. So we're going to practice that and improve how you can actually move through the hips, flex through the hips, differentiating from your lumbar, your low back. So as you're getting into the hands, knees position, you can use a mirror and to get feedback. If you don't have a good awareness, maybe you can tell whether you're arched, your low back is arched, whether your low back is rounded, you can't tell, and that's okay. And get the feedback, visual feedback, or you can place your own hand and to touch your pelvis and to touch your low back so you can tell what's the shape of your low back, what's the orientation of your pelvis. If your low back is rounded, your pelvis is, your tail is pointing downwards, right? If you're arched through your low back, then your tail is lifting up towards the ceiling. But if your low back is more neutral, then your pelvis is more neutral as well. So find that neutral place, neither rounded nor arched. And eventually, it would be nice for you to be able to actually feel where's the neutral without really looking at the mirror, without touching your back or the pelvis. And once you find that neutral place where your spine is neither arched nor rounded, and stay and keep that same shape of your back and the pelvis, and starting to move your hips back towards the heels. And you may not have mobility in your ankles or the knees to get there, that's okay. But that itself is a great mobility exercise that you need for squats, exactly. So you can work on that here. So really pay attention how you get into that. As you get closer, as your hips get closer to your heels, if you're used to rounding your back, you will recognize, well, I want you to pay attention to notice when your back starts to round, when your pelvis starts to move this way. And see if you can actually identify and stop before you start to do that. Then how far back can you move without rounding your back? You don't have to force it, but are you aware of that movement when your back starts to round? Can you tell? And that's an awareness. So if you can't really feel, you can't tell, you're not aware, then whether you have the mobility or flexibility to get into the position or not, it doesn't matter because you can't tell, you can't feel, you're not aware, and then the body automatically moves into that direction. Then, well, you can't really change that, right? So take your time to practice and then work into these movements. And this is a very specific, pattern-specific movement, right? So this is not just a simple stretching exercise. If you're just stretching, assuming that stretching would change your movement patterns and change your nervous system, it will not change it. You still move the same way. So when you get into the squat position, then you automatically go into the same patterns. So you want to retrain your nervous system, which means you have to pay attention to your body. You have to pay attention to your body, not my body or the computer screen or your phone. Connect with your body, that's what I mean. Then you can start to become more sensitive to your body movement patterns. Then you can begin to explore different patterns. So that's the focus of this one. So that you can learn to flex through the hips, differentiating from your lumbar flexion. Then, from here, then you can move. You can practice. Here, I'm holding my microphone. Here, and getting into the squat position. If you don't have a good ankle mobility, then you may get stuck and you can't get further. That's okay though. Right? You're working towards that full squat. Here. Versus, like so. Recognize that you are moving and flexing through your hips. Okay, so now I'm in squat position. So go ahead and take your time to practice that from your hands and knees positions. First, use a mirror or use your own hand and feel and see where the pelvis is and where the spine is. And see if you can actually feel in your own body, recognize it, and then starts to move your hips back towards the heels, slowly and gradually, paying attention. And notice when your pelvis and the back starts to change the shape, stop and see if you can actually keep the same shape of your pelvis and spine as you move your hips back towards the heels. And practice that. And how far can you go? So that's a very specific hip mobility for squatting, right? If you don't really know how you are moving, and no stretching will really change how you move, and therefore you will never really improve how you squat. So be very intentional. You're dealing with changing your nervous system movement patterns, you have to pay attention. You have to slow down how you do it. And this is why I always practice moving slowly. Once you learn to change your movement patterns, then you can start to explore movements a lot faster. You can move more quickly and still explore a different movement patterns. But when you are beginning to change your habitual patterns, you have to do it slowly or habitual patterns will take over. Then you're stuck. So you can't change that. All right, and this is why I emphasize go ahead and do the movement slowly and do less. More effort doesn't help. More effort only strengthens your habitual patterns, which you want to avoid, right? Less is more. Move slowly, small range, but be very attentive to your body and be very intentional with how you're moving. Have fun with the practice, and if you like this video, and please support my channel by subscribing and hitting the like button. And if you want to become the best expert in how your body wants to move, and please join my masterclass. That link is in the description. And you can apply for my comprehensive movement course called Understanding How Your Body Moves method inside the masterclass. So I will see you in the next video.